Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Ask Wildman. My name is Miles Bassett, and the CEO and founder here at Wildman Web Solutions. We produce this show, this live stream every Wednesday at 11 a.m. to answer your questions about technology, business, marketing, anything else you want to throw out there. We are here to answer your questions and to be a resource to our local business community. So if you or anyone you know wants to learn a little bit more about the digital space, wants to get their business online, or maybe just leverage technology a little bit more to grow and succeed in their business ventures, then we are here for that. Throw your questions in the comments below. Or if you're not catching this live, you're watching this later, you can also email your questions to askwildman@wildmanweb.com. I do have that address scrolling below me here in this crawler if you want to grab it. So anytime throughout here, go ahead and just throw those questions in the comments below. We will address those as they come up. We've got a couple in the inbox, a couple that have come in over the last week or so. So we'll go ahead and start with those. But if you have any questions, you want to know how, web development works, you got some questions on graphic design, you want to talk about Facebook ads or Google ads, or how search engine optimization works, what is going on behind the curtain there, we are here for that. So throw those questions in the comments below and we'll address them as they come up. I do want to throw in a quick tag here. If you haven't checked it out already, please go to our website. We've got some awesome stuff there. Not only can you obviously learn more about our company and kind of the process and what we do here. We've got an entire resources tab here just for you, stuff that we put together. My team and I work to put these resources out there for anyone and everyone who needs them. The first thing here is just our blog. We've got articles coming out all the time. We're all writing for it and putting out as best information as we can. Here's our last one here. If you're facing indexing issues, report to Google. So if Google's not indexing your site, here's how you actually get that reported time and time again. We've worked with clients, either we're doing a marketing campaign or a search campaign, and we're just not getting the results that we need here. And it's not our fault, it's not the client's fault. Everyone's doing everything right, and Google's just not holding up its end of the bargain. So we put in the process here to actually be able to report everything here. It's a new reporting process that they put out. I talked about it a little bit on the show last week, wrote an article on it, and we sent part of this out on our newsletter, I think earlier today. I'm not sure when that came out, but if you're not signed up for our newsletter, go ahead and do that as well. Maybe I can put a link to that here in the comments. Additionally, we have our live stream archives. That is this show. We put up the actual video that we do every week. So here, I guess, would be 2 weeks ago. I haven't put up last week's yet, but you can jump on here and check out our live stream from weeks past. If we said something brilliant a month ago, you can jump back here and check it out. And we are putting up transcripts for each of these as we get to them. Our long-awaited podcast is out as well. That is this show put out in audio form. So if you're really more of a listener, you don't want to watch Mike's and I sit here and talk about things, you just want to listen, jump over here to the podcast page, pick your host here, wherever you like to listen. We're on all of these platforms, and listen to the show that way. And finally, the Local Business Online Toolkit. This is just free software for anyone who wants to sign up. Helps you to manage your business online, everything from listings to SEO to advertising and reviews and your website. Everything's on here. So just check this out and sign up if you like it. All right. Self-promotion aside, we are here to answer your questions. So please throw those questions in the comments below. If you have any questions about advertising, technology, marketing, or occasionally we answer questions about golf. I do not know why. That is a recurring theme here, though. So throw those questions in the comments below and we'll get to those. So to help me answer these questions, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Mike, hopefully not in the middle of a sip of coffee. Let's see if I can do this. Here we are.
Here we are. Good morning.
Go. Good morning. Hello, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, but getting better by the minute, Miles. How in the heck are you doing? Let's get to an important question here.
I'm pretty happy. I got my coffee, some nice dark roast from Uplift Coffee. Shout out to our friends up there in North Lawrence. Got a really cool space going up there and some really cool stuff happening. They now have a coffee truck that's going around town, if you've seen that.
I have seen that. I
Yeah.
haven't been a patron of it yet. I haven't got to do that, but did see it over on Wakarusa Street not long ago.
Yeah, free advertisement. Their stuff's good, so check it out. Um, but yeah, coffee makes me happy, so I am happy and ready to answer some questions here.
Cheers to that, Miles.
So I'm watching the comments. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw those over here. We can go ahead and kick it off with this question here we have in the inbox. I think that this goes to you, Mike, so I'll let you take it here off the top.
Okay.
All right. How often should I be posting to my business pages? So I'm guessing that means in like social media, Facebook page, Instagram page, LinkedIn, etc. How frequently should we be posting as a business owner?
Oh boy, we're gonna open up a can of worms right here off the bat. All right.
Might as well, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a question that does come up, somewhat routinely. Probably we get it every few months or so. But it's always a good one to go back and re-examine if we've talked about it before, with a client or just a business in general, or if you're just starting out to really kind of build your marketing strategy. Obviously, it's a really, really, really important question. First of all, I think it's always more important to worry about what we're going to say than how many times we're saying it or who we're going to say it to. But that's not to say that frequency is not very, very important. And that's really what the root of this question is. If you go back into the analogs of history of advertising, people would tell you that reach and frequency, meaning how many people you reach and how many times you reach them, were the most important thing by far. I think some people still believe that. I think those of us who have really pushed the content side of it, the last decade, 20 years or so, have kind of pushed back on that notion that, maybe it is most important in what you say. But certainly that doesn't mean that reach and frequency is not still a very valid discussion point. So let's have that discussion here just about the reach factor in general. So the first thing we want to understand is, what are we trying to achieve? Because this means many, many different things for different businesses in terms of what they're using their business pages actually for. Some of them, it's the absolute lifeblood of their sales process. It's the absolute lifeblood of bringing in people that aren't currently doing business with them and getting people who are currently doing business with them to keep doing business with them. You think about, e-commerce stores and things like that on Instagram, right? They're posting all the time. Well, why is that? Because that is their only lifeblood, right? They don't have a sales team. They don't have a well-known brand to fall back on. They're not running traditional media or maybe even paid ads on social media, right? And so to them, they're going to be much, much more concerned about how many times they're going to post than, say, somebody who is a heritage business, who has, the only game in town, so to speak, who has a built-up brand equity, who maybe they can afford to run regular advertising campaigns. And so for them, it's not really that big of a deal because it's not going to move the needle one way or the other, right, in terms of the actual sales of their business. So that's the first thing we have to understand is, what are we actually doing with our business pages in terms of getting results, and how are we going to measure that? But I'm just going to kind of take those two extremes out of the equation here, and let's just talk about a regular business out there, a small business that, it's like I said, they're probably not either one of those extremes. They probably get a fair amount of business from what their activity level is on social media, but they probably also rely on other factors as well. So in this kind of scenario, you want to just stick to the rule of thumb of being long-term and consistent. Unless you're in a really seasonal business, the first thing is, what can I do? What kind of content can I put out that's meaningful, valuable, and consistent? Because that is really what's going to get you the most mileage out of whatever kind of platform we're talking about. Because the algorithms, for the most part, there's differences in the algorithms, but in simplistic terms, they work pretty much the same. The platforms reward posters or content creators that post content that gets people to engage with it. that gets people to watch it, that gets people to share it, that gets people to comment on it. Why do all the platforms prefer that? Because that gets the audience, the users, to spend more time on the platform, which is the end goal of every single platform out there, right? They want more users. They want more time spent of those users on the platform, because that is how they're going to monetize that platform and grow the overall worth of that platform. So if we break it down like that, it's really, really simple. So if I'm posting once in a blue moon, obviously that platform is not going to register me in the algorithm as an important content creator that we need to boost their posts, because that's going to get us more people spending more time on the platform, right? The same thing as if I'm really inconsistent. If I post 5 things one week and then I don't post for 2 weeks and then I post 7 things the next week, it's not going to see me as a regular contributor of meaningful content that people are engaging with. Therefore, it's not going to want to boost me up more than the people who are being regular contributors. And it's really about the consistency more than it is the volume. Because there are plenty of people who they will post too much, and that actually deems them ineffective by the algorithm because no one's engaging with it, right? If I just sat here and posted once an hour, that's not going to get me where I need to be, because I'm probably not going to be able to post anything close to being good enough content for people to engage with on that level. And so at that point, I'm really just kind of spamming the algorithm, and they're going to see that as a detriment too. So we want to find the sweet spot in that algorithm, and so we can get the most bang for our buck when we do post. And that's why it's so important that we do something consistently. So whether that's posting 3 times a week for you, 5 times a week for you, or 15 times a week for you, what I want you to do is figure out what kind of meaningful content can I subscribe to? Can I subscribe to actually putting out on a regular basis and make it consistent? And start with that. Because as far as, just to answer that question in a one, sentence question or answer, however many times your audience wants you to post, that's how many times you should be posting. And so it's different for different audiences, different for different people, but figure out what that is, and also figure out, reverse engineer, what can you do, right? Because it's not just about come buy my stuff. We don't just want to post that we've been here since 1947. We don't want to remind people that we're here for them. Okay. That's not posting. That's just blabbing, right? Or some people would call spamming. And so what we want to do is we want to post things that are relevant to them, that are helpful to them, that bring value to them, right? That educate them, that inform them or entertain them. And once we figure out what we can post on that kind of scale, then we know, okay, yeah, I could do this 3 times a day, or I could do this 3 times a week. And it's probably, for most people, you're probably going to be somewhere within that window. It's not going to be 3 times, like I said, it's not going to be every hour, and it's not going to be 3 times a month for pretty much any business out there, even if you are in the extremes. Maybe if you're a really seasonal business or something. So the other thing here, Miles, to keep in mind is, getting back to this idea of frequency, right? Because there's one thing just to post, and there's another thing to get people to take action on your post. And so, first of all, to finish my point about what kind of posts we need to be doing, we don't always want to make it about me. We don't always want to try to have a call to action. A lot of times we just want it to be valuable to the end user, so they want to consume the next thing that we post. And maybe that next thing that we post is the straight call to action, is the sales piece. And the other thing we can do is we don't have to even post about anything that we do, right? A really great thing on social media is to post about what other people are doing, to lift somebody else up, to spotlight somebody else in your community that is doing something important. And again, that's a way that we can kind of meet that quota, so to speak, of, hey, well, I need to make at least this many posts a week, without then just resorting back to spamming people, without just resorting back to posting crap or just posting about myself and how special I am, because that gets old. People don't want to read about that. People want to read about something that's interesting to them, or interesting about something that's going around them. So then right back to my point about frequency here, because this is something that we've really kind of changed our outlook on, marketers, and really as recently as the past 18 months with what has happened during the pandemic. And that is the rate of frequency before somebody is going to take action. And it's a really, really important metric. It's really also kind of an impossible metric to really fully understand, because it does, wildly, vary on what your offer is. I always make the joke, but I think it's an analogy that really holds true, that if I'm selling Corvettes for a nickel, I only have to sell it or say it one time, right? Dale Willie could get on the radio right now and say, I've got Corvettes for a nickel this afternoon, and he's going to be sold out of Corvettes before it hits 12:01. If he just says, I have Corvettes for sale, and I don't know what they're going for these days, but I'm going to guess they're probably around 70 grand. He probably needs to say that several times a day. And maybe that's one that you do need to say every hour. Maybe he is on that extreme level of frequency. But for many, many years, and probably as a fool's errand, marketers had this idea that it really took 6 to 7 times for somebody to say no, essentially, or to hear a message and not react to it, if you want to think about it like that, before they were going to say yes, and they were going to open up their wallet and they were going to give us money. A recent study came out, I want to say it was back in March or April, from Nielsen, that really kind of blew this thing out of the water. And Miles, I was saying that stat was dead long before I read this new study, because it's just common sense, right?
We're always ahead of the curve here at Wildman. Like we can tell the future here clearly. We're batting 1,000 for our future predictions.
Clearly, yes.
Count all the times we're wrong.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the casino for our meeting later on today. That's how good we can do it. No, but you didn't have to be an expert, I guess is what I'm saying, to see this trend coming. Just go out to a public place and witness human interaction, and then think about what it was like 10 or 20 years ago. And we, of course, we're more distracted. Of course, more things are vying for our attention. Of course, our attention span is getting smaller and smaller. So anyway, so that stat that it took 6 to 7 times came from a study, I believe, in the early 80s. I even forget now. It was a while ago, okay? And before we obviously had the internet, let alone smartphones. And it was based on this idea that human beings, the average human being in America, saw 5,000 different kinds of sponsored messages every single day. That could be everything from a logo to an actual commercial to, this hat that I'm wearing right now, right, is a sponsored brand message, if you want to think about it like that way.
You've got 2 on you. You've got the hat, and then our logo is up in the right-hand corner of your...
Oh, right. Yeah, so you're actually on me. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess...
Well, maybe
here,
there.
Yeah, and I guess over here...
A little subtler.
Right. So, yeah. So if you think about it, they are literally everywhere, right? I mean, I could just look around this room I'm in right now, and probably come up with 100. So that number has obviously exploded. And in this study, they actually didn't address that number. But, it's definitely 3 or 4 times higher. But they did address the times that it would take for somebody to say yes on average. I can't remember. Did I tell you this, Miles? I think maybe I did. But I'll ruin the suspense for the audience here. It's 16 to 18 times now. It's tripled.
It's a little higher.
Yeah, it's nearly tripled. So, and that's a lot. Yeah, like you said, that is a lot of times. And so for me as a marketer, that really has to take you back and say, whoa, maybe we need to go back and we need to think about this whole frequency thing all over again. Because I obviously can't say the same thing 16 times to somebody and also expect them to really hold their attention. Like after you've said no 11, are you really coming back to read that 12th message? So to me, some people, you could take this data one way or the other, right? Somebody could run that with that number and say, whoa, Mike, actually, look, you're wrong now. Frequency is the most important thing. We just need to jack that thing up to the moon, you know? But my pushback to that would be that ad fatigue is still a thing. And ad fatigue is it's a marketer's term. Basically, it's what it sounds like. People get tired of seeing the same ads. And so the more ad fatigue the audience gets, the less they're actually able to absorb that ad. So what this means is not only do we have to say what we want to say to the people more times than we ever thought we did, but we have to say it in more unique and different ways, keeping their attention, keeping the value, proposition to them, but also driving our main message home, right? So content, to me, what we're saying actually also got 3 times almost more important, and so you can't cancel those things, can't cancel each other out. And so it's really, really, really important now more than ever that, yes, we're talking to people, we're saying things more than we thought we needed to, but that we're saying things more in a different way while keeping the overall message the same, so they're not actually losing sight of what we're trying to get them to do. And who knows, Miles? We, hopefully we're not going to go through another, cataclysmic type of global event like we did the past 18 months in the near future again. But I don't think this trend is slowing down in the sense that it's going to keep going in the opposite way of attention spans are going to get shorter. So I don't know. I'll throw it back over to you. I know that was a long-winded answer, but like I said, as soon as I heard that question, I thought, man, this is a can of worms that we're opening up here. But a lot to unpack there, certainly, for such what is seemingly a simple answer. So to bring it back and maybe try to put this button on it and have a simple answer here is post as many times as you can, post something valuable, and make sure that it's valuable by gauging the rate of people that gauging the rate of people that are engaging with it, and make sure that you're not actually turning people off. So there you go. But yeah, you're probably somewhere between 3 times a week and 3 times a day.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that was a lot there, but I think that we can use this as an example of content creation where, we can take that spiel that you just did, grab the transcript from it, and then turn that into an article, break that up into 4 different social media posts, and then we've got content for the week. Because I think what a lot of business owners hear when they hear you saying, once a day, a couple of times a week, posting out, not just posting crap, but something that is actually meaningful, engaging for people, is like, how am I going to come up with all this stuff? What am I going to put out here? I'm not a media company. I make widgets. I make coffee. This is what I do here. I can't put in the time and effort to come up with that many things to say to people that are really meaningful and interesting. So I just want to throw on that additional tip there and add on to your point and saying, you have more content than you think, and repurposing content can be your best friend. You can do one thing a week or every other week or something like that, and then just really allocate some time, put an hour or 2 into it, and then break that up into 10, 20, 30 pieces of content that'll feed you over the next couple of weeks. In addition to that, I don't want to just lean on posting either. I mean, I know I've said this before on this show, but social media is just that. It's social. It's building on that engagement factor. So it's not just about what you're putting out there. It's about what you're taking in and what you're interacting with. So, maybe you don't have to post all the time, but you can leverage your followers by liking and sharing other posts. Maybe you can, give a shout out to someone else in your local business community, someone else in your industry, or another business that you work with. Just share their post and say, hey, check out my friends over here at Uplift Coffee. Whatever you want to do there's a lot of different ways for you to interact on social media that doesn't require you to reinvent the wheel and create content all the time. And then when you were talking about frequency there, I thought that was Well, that's incredibly important, not only just on the human element, that people need to see things fairly frequently. They need to keep you top of mind. They need to be seeing your message a couple of times, apparently like 18 times before it's, we're talking about a conversion here. But it's also important on the technical side of things, because, we talk about SEO on this show a lot, because getting found, turns out that's kind of important in the online space. The internet's gigantic, and you need to be found by who you need to be found by when you need to be found. That's a better sentence than it sounded like up front. I promise you. Just go back and listen to it. Frequency is one of the metrics that search engines and other crawlers, and other things that kind of run on algorithms are looking at. They're looking at how frequently you're interacting with people online. They look at how active you are on your different social media channels, and also posting to your own website. If you're creating content on your own website, you can treat that as another social media channel if you want. You post to Facebook, you post to Instagram, you post to LinkedIn, and you post to your own website, which is arguably the most important one there. And if you can keep your frequency consistent there, not necessarily crazy high, but consistent, even if you're just writing one thing a month, but you're always right on the dot, one thing a month, algorithms are going to love that. They hate to see something like your example there, where I'm going to put out 7 things this week and then nothing for 3 weeks, and then going to put out 10 things that week and then nothing again for a month. Instead, break that all up and do what you can. Set a realistic goal of consistency and then stick to it, whatever that is. Even if you can only create one good, meaningful piece of content a month, do that and push that out. Most likely, if you're really putting that much time and effort into one thing, you can probably break that up into a couple of things and reuse bits and pieces of it throughout over the next couple of months. And you get that going for a little while. Eventually, you're going to have a backlog of stuff that you can grab from, and have this library of content that you can grab and you can post, you can throw out there on social media in order to get a little bit more attention. But don't forget about engaging with other people. Like and comment on other things with your business account. Share other things with your business account. You can leverage the rest of the content ecosystem out there to generate engagement and to get more eyes on you and your brand. So just wanted to make sure that we threw that out there, made sure to hit some of those very important points and bring those, just kind of highlight some of those points there, because you really did say a whole lot of important stuff there. But consistency, I think, is huge. Leveraging your own site, I think, is huge. Keep in mind that this is important for more than just the human element, but there's a technological element here that is incredibly important on the search side of things. Overall, just do what you can while doing it well.
Yeah.
Don't try to overexert yourself and just spam Facebook or put a bunch of crap out there. Put out something useful and meaningful, set realistic goals, and stick to them. There's nothing more important than consistency here, I think.
100%, Miles. And you did bring up the exact next question that everybody asks when we say, oh, this is how much you need to be posting. How the heck do I do that? And, as we've said before on the show, you do need to be a media company, and that really is the takeaway from all of this, I think. And when we get into the news, I have a couple news updates that'll tie into that as well, because that's the thing. If you're not going to be a media company, well, your competitor might be, and that's what's the attention's going to go, and then that's where the market share is going to go as well, over the course of time. And so, yeah, how is the next best step? And yeah, you have to work smarter, not harder. You have to be able to make long pieces of content and then format that out into smaller pieces that you can spread out and disseminate across different platforms at different times. So really good and really, really important question. I'm glad we got that. Like I said, it's probably something we need to hit at least every few months on the show.
All right, so we've got some people commenting on here, just saying hello. So hello out there.
Hello out there. Yes.
It's the question show.
Hello.
So we answered that question here, talking about how often businesses should be posting to their accounts, and hopefully we hit that in enough detail here. If you want us to dive into any more of that or hit anything else, please throw that in the comments. If you have any other questions, comment. And if you think that the information that we're putting out here is useful in one way or another, if you think this is valuable, you learned something, do us a favor, like, comment, share. You know how social media works. It's all about engagement. So help us to reach more people, answer some more questions, and be more of a research to other business owners and to your friends by engaging with us here. Give us a like, give us a share, whatever you want to do. But with that little shameless plug there, I think we'll move on. I guess this isn't necessarily a question, but this did come up this just a few days ago, and I thought it was just the perfect example of someone who just nailed content marketing. I was looking through this entire thing as a consumer of this business and just thinking, wow, this is what we have been telling people to do for years. And this guy just came out and did all of it on day one. It was just perfect. So as those of you out there that know me personally know that I'm getting married here soon. And I bought my wedding ring from a company that makes these cool little handmade rings. So I'm on their email list and everything. They've been sending stuff, and it's a really cool company. I really liked my experience there. But the guy who started that has started a new company, a new thing. And so he sent out an email to everyone on the list saying, hey, come check out my new thing. I got through so much content before I even knew what he was selling on this new thing. The product is so far away from front and center. So new company is called Wolf and Iron. First, he sent out this thing about a book. He had published a book along with it. There was a blog there. There's a podcast. There's a Facebook group that he's only letting certain people join. There's some sort of like exclusivity there. All of it is kind of centered around like men's topics, men's talk. The Facebook group is supposed to be sort of this men's group, and the podcast talks about lots of manly things and Teddy Roosevelt and cigars and stuff like that. It's clearly leaning into a particular audience, but like all the content was super good. It wasn't didn't put a whole lot of money into it. Self-publishing a book, has a podcast that's clearly just him like walking around in the woods talking to his phone, lowest production quality, but the content is really good and has nothing to do with the product. It took me forever to figure out what this guy was actually selling here. And you know what it was?
I have no idea.
He's selling beard oil.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That was it. It took a long time. You only got three
Yeah.
of them, and I had to go through all these other things. And by the time I got to the actual product, he didn't have to sell me on anything. I'm just like, I want all of this stuff. Like, all of the content was so good. I had already listened to an episode of the podcast. I had already looked into the book. I hadn't quite like bought that or anything, but read some of the blogs. I thought that Facebook group was really cool. And then finally get over to his website, click on the shop button, and there's some beard oil stuff there, which for non-bearded folks out there, it just makes this whole thing not itchy. It's very good. But yeah, I just thought it was a perfect example of someone that was just leveraging the hell out of content marketing and not pushing his product at all. There was no sales. It was just, hey, here's some great content. And if you happen to like it, by the way, I'm selling stuff. And I think he's going to have a lot of success with that just because of the quality of content there and the lack of pushy salesmanship.
Yeah, that sounds like a great example there, Miles, of content marketing. I'm not familiar with that company, but that's exactly how you need to do it. And then on the whole sales thing, too, because let's break that down a little bit. You really have to understand your audience, because there's a real fine line between not selling and not selling.
It's true.
Because the number one mistake that most salespeople make, it's not that they're too pushy, it's that they never ask for the freaking sale. They're really afraid to like go in for the close. And so, when somebody is creating a podcast or any kind of a content marketing funnel, essentially, that's really, the $100,000 question right there is when do we put in the ask, right? And also it really depends on the lifetime of the content play, because if it's an early thing, like if I'm on episode 6 of my podcast, I need to give the audience probably a lot more time to do what? Zig Ziglar, know, like, and trust me before they're going to give me their money, right? If I'm on episode 660 and I haven't asked anybody for money yet, I've probably missed the boat on some cash going my way, And so there's that fine line of understanding your audience, what they want. And a lot of times it's about reverse engineering that and understanding it. And you can find out, hey, how often should I be, trying to basically monetize my audience? Because a lot of people make that mistake if they try to monetize their audience too soon and they turn people off. And then other people, they don't ever try to monetize it or wait too long and they leave money on the table, right? Obviously, if we were going to pick a one way to error, we want to go the latter, because then you at least still have your audience, than never really building it up to the place where it can be a viable audience. Miles, let me ask you, though, since you brought up your wedding and everything and searching for rings, and since we're talking about marketing and frequency and all that, let me ask you this. Was Shane Company ever considered in your buying process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. It was before I did any research into this, before I really dove into anything, that was the only name that I even knew. If you would have asked, you gun to my head, say, hey, name a jewelry store, that's the only one that I had. And we all know exactly why.
Well, tell everybody why. Maybe not everybody knows why.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm assuming you're asking that question for the reason that they've really hit that frequency button hard,
Right.
and for a long time.
Right.
If you live in this area anyway, I know that I've been hearing their ads on the radio for years and years and years. I've been getting their advertisements on social media, at least since I started looking into this. They've just been on the forefront. They are frequency masters.
Yep.
And so before I even had thought about proposing, before I had thought about looking into any of this stuff, they were the go-to.
Yep.
So they made me skip. We always talk about skipping the search. They nailed it. I didn't even have to look at anyone else, and I already had that name ready to go.
Miles, they own your dome. That's basically what's happening here. Now, Shane Company is a great example of creating top-of-mind awareness, and how they've done it is exactly what you just said. They have long-term consistent frequency, and they have interesting creative, right? They tell stories in their creative. A lot of their commercials are testimonials from clients, telling the story about, when they found love and they went to find the perfect ring, and all of that. And then, of course, what's the cornerstone of the whole campaign? The guy's name, Tom, whatever, the CEO, and his voice, right?
Right.
So go back to sonic branding, that we've talked about on the show.
He's got kind of a unique voice there, and he's on the radio personally saying all this stuff, telling this story. And I think he's just pretty much saying, hey, look, you can trust me. They've got the slogan, you've got a friend, originally in the diamond business. Now in the jewelry business, they've updated that. But the whole point is, hey, you've got a friend. I'm trustworthy. I'm just a human. I'm just a person here, really trying to bring it down to that personal, emotional level.
That's right. Yeah, he's building the know, like, and trust factor, which is super important when we're talking about this type of a purchase. I mean, not many people, buy an engagement or wedding ring multiple times in their lives. Some do. But
ideally you're shooting for the one. Everyone's shooting for the one, and it's a big purchase. For a lot of people, it's a ton of money. Not only does it have that emotional connection to it, but it's just flat out a lot of money, and usually has a longer buying funnel. No one's just, well, I say no one. Most people aren't just walking in and buying on a whim. This $100,000 thing.
Yeah. 100%. So they have this campaign they've been running years and years and years. It's essentially the same campaign, going back to the point we were making before, right? It's like from 30,000 feet, it's the same campaign, but you rarely hear the same ad again and again and again. They shift it around. They make it a little bit different, a little bit unique, so you don't just tune it out. And they buy up. They're a St. Louis company that then moved to Kansas City, and those are the two main regions they're in. And they buy up basically every major radio station, and they basically have a commercial almost every hour 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you have to listen around it, right? You have to think around it when you're in the decision-making process, as Miles just illustrated for us. When he sat down to make this decision, that was the first thing that came to his mind. And so even if you're not the best, right? He ended up finding a different company that he liked a little better, that got him a product that he was more of a fan, but he had to think around Shango to start with. So what kind of a freaking advantage is that? It's enormous, right? It's absolutely enormous. And so we didn't plan this, but I'm glad we stumbled into that example, Miles, because it really drove home the point that we were making earlier in the broadcast about how important reach and frequency is in your creative content. So,
and to give them credit where credit is due, though I did make my purchase of that particular item somewhere else, their advertising did pay dividends, and I have made a purchase from them.
No, so, there we go.
It totally worked. They got me hook, line, and sinker,
and
it was a great experience too. So
awesome,
yeah, good through and through. But that frequency, it works, and you're right. Everything else was set up against them. It's like they were the starting point, and then you go out from them and find, okay, here's this other one. I'm going to compare it to them, but you're establishing yourself as the baseline.
Right. Yeah. Another example we've mentioned before on the show, hyper local example is Academy Cars, Lonnie Blackburn and Academy Cars. Right. If you're in the market for a used car in Lawrence, you have to think around Lonnie. You have to give yourself reasons why you're not going to go see Lonnie. Right. And that it's not an easy thing to do, but it's a long-term strategy to build market voice. Because once you create that top of mind awareness, you will create market share. Okay, I think we've hit this pretty hard. Are we ready for a news update?
It was
Miles,
a good story. Yeah, let's hit the news desk.
I'm glad we got into that. Okay, we got 15 minutes left here. Let's hit the news update. I got some fun stuff here today. Let's start with the most fun. How about that? Right. We mentioned this on the show a couple weeks ago, but I don't think we've really dove into it yet at all, Miles. And that was the NCAA changed their rules to basically allow players of any college, athletic. Well, that's not true. I believe it's only D1, but any D1 athlete out there right now can basically go out and get a sponsorship. And they can start getting paid for companies to use their name, image, and likeness in commercials or whatever, right? And so a really interesting thing that came out of this that has been making some headlines here the last few days that I saw is from our old friend over at Barstool Sports. The CEO of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, has been making some headlines here because they apparently have somewhere in the realm of 75,000 college athletes that have now expressed interest in becoming a Barstool Sports sponsored athlete. So basically what he did was...
of course they're the first ones to jump onto this. How am I not surprised at all?
Of course they are. Yeah, I mean, Dave Portnoy has his hand in many, many things. He's infamous or famous, depending on how you look at it, for some of his antics on social media. And he does, I think everybody can agree, whether you love him or hate him, he does the best damn pizza reviews ever. But
which again is content not directly related to the product at all. And
right.
If you do it well, that stuff works.
That's another great example of content marketing. So anyways, he does sometimes get on social media and do live broadcasts, emergency press conferences. He calls them, not always sober. And he did one, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure his level of sobriety for this, but he basically announced that, Barstool Sports was starting a sports marketing agency for college athletes. And he basically said, any D1 athlete that blinks at me will get signed, was I think the quote from the emergency press conference. And so, like I said, since then they've had 75,000 some Division I athletes say that they want to be interested in this. We're still not really sure what this all entails to be a barstool athlete. That is still murky. But it just really kind of, I guess, blows the top off of this discussion of what the future of marketing looks like, especially in a college town like ours, where we have lots of D1 athletes walking around, and how that can play into business opportunities. And it's not something, like I said, that we've even had the time to sit down, catch our breath, and think about. Apparently, Dave Portnoy has been able to do that, at least to the point where he said that blanks can be in on this thing. But it's certainly something to watch. And who knows, Miles, we may be making an official announcement here in the near future on this show. We may do an emergency press conference announcement that Wildman Web Solutions may be jumping into this sports marketing game as well. Who knows? But I'd like a piece of some of that 75,000 student athletes myself. So, but, all kidding aside, obviously this is going to be something that we're going to be watching for the next few months and few years, and just see if this really does turn into something that's going to be a viable marketing avenue for collegiate players and for businesses alike. Right now it's mostly, big brands and things like that have jumped on it. But like I said, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for small and local businesses, which they've already been doing to a great extent with former athletes, especially, the KU basketball players. We could all name local commercials that we've seen with KU basketball players in it for local businesses. So it's going to be really interesting when you have current players also able to be in the mix and lend their voice. I mean, could you imagine, if Andrew Wiggins was doing an Academy Cars commercial or something back in the day, that would definitely get people's attention.
I can't imagine this not being a big thing, a big development that a lot of people jump on. I think what we're waiting for here is to see what shape it actually takes. Is this going to be something that is attainable for smaller businesses? At what level is this going to be effective? In what industries is this really going to pick up? Because, I can clearly see, a local sports bar jumping on this, or you can get one of the live reps or something. But, is it going to branch out from that? You mentioned used cars, like that could, be a very realistic possibility. Are we going to see some other industries jumping in on this, being a little bit creative? We always talk about being out of the box thinkers when it comes to content creation. All it takes is the right creative mind at some random little small business to grab onto a KU basketball player and make some really cool content. And, that's one of those things that I think could really blow up and very quickly become like that's national viral content kind of material.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this shapes out.
Yeah, and you have the opportunity to get a player to endorse your business in their prime, so to speak, that you're never going to be able to do again. Like you think about Andrew Wiggins. Like, if that rule would have been in place then, he would have came in. He certainly would have had many, many offers, and it probably would have been at a steep price point, sure, but maybe not one that would totally, take every local business out of consideration, because let's be honest, there are some local businesses who spend $1 million a year sponsoring, KU athletic related things. So certainly it's within the realm of possibility. But today, are they going to be able to get Andrew Wiggins? No, because he's making far too much money in the NBA. I could be wrong, but he's probably not going to come back to town to take an offer. Whatever city he's in, I'm sure he can get a bigger fish to write him a check. And then on the flip side of it, you might have a player like Frank Mason, who was, National Player of the Year, right? Didn't end up panning out in the NBA, that great. He's still up there, but he's not a household name or anything. But you could have had him when he was the household name and the biggest thing in Lawrence, Kansas. So kind of an interesting dynamic. Like I said, we'll just wait and see, and who knows, he may be jumping in with both feet. But all right, let me get to some other news there, unless we got some questions popping down, Miles. Feel free to stop me at any time. But if not, I'm going to get to Chipotle. What in the world is going on over at Chipotle? I tell you what, They're selling some burritos, though, folks. Chipotle's digital sales rose 10.5% during Q2. And get this, Miles, 50% of their overall sales are from digital sales. 50%. Absolutely outstanding. Let's get into this numbers here. Chipotle increased revenue by 38.7% year over year compared to Q2, and then digital sales rose quarter over quarter by 10.5%. According to the company's Tuesday's earning release, digital sales generated $916 million, almost $1 billion for the chain just during Q2. Really, really outstanding numbers here. And if we take a little bit deeper dive into, okay, how does this look compared to other brands out there? Well, for being a non-pizza place, Chipotle is only outpaced in digital sales by Wingstop, who's at 60%, and Noodles and Company, who's at 62%. So they're in the top three non-pizza places for digital sales. To give you some comparison here, Wendy's expects to reach 10% this year. Burger King is at 8% currently. Chipotle is at 50%. So not only have they increased, of course, their digital sales significantly, but as we talked about with that 37.2 number, they've increased overall sales by more than a third over the last year. So a couple interesting things I think to pick out of this that could be applied to local, either franchise chain restaurants, but even just your local everyday mom and pop restaurant, down on Mass Street or Six and Wakarusa or wherever, and that is that people still want digital. They still want it quick, right? And it's not like Chipotle was ever not quick. I mean, it's a quick service restaurant, for God's sakes. But what they've done is they've accelerated it even faster. And it's interesting too, Miles, that they're going to build 200 new locations this year. And a lot of those locations are going to be drive-throughs that pair with the digital app. So now I don't even have to get on my freaking car, right? Because that's probably a big reason that's holding back Wendy's. And Wendy's has made extreme huge leaps in their digital sales. But because they're still so dependent on the drive-through, it's not as big of a deal as a quick service restaurant without a drive-through. And so if we take that then to, like I said, just a small local business down on Mass Street, what does that tell me? Well, of course you better have online ordering, for God's sakes, but you also better have it as easy to use and as efficient as you possibly can, because that's what the consumers are really leaning into. So you need to have it tied in with a mobile app. You need to have that not clunky. You need to have it, functioning properly, and you need to have it so people can just touch a button, have it paid for, and then get a push notifications when their order is ready for pickup. Because that is where the market is going. That is where the consumer is expecting you to meet them. And so really, really interesting stuff here out of Chipotle and what they've done as far as positioning their app and their loyalty rewards program to push this increase is 100% of the credit, I think, other than, of course, the factors of just, like I said, consumer behavior and what happened during the pandemic, that people didn't want to go into a restaurant. But the important takeaway, I think, here is that sentiment is still lingering even after the pandemic has waned. And why is that? It's because it's easier, it's faster, and I can still get the same tasty Chipotle, or whatever else I'm doing, is if I went another route and it took longer. So, Miles, I don't know if you have anything to add on that from the digital ordering
Yeah, absolutely.
side of things, but yeah, go right ahead.
Well, first of all, if you're talking about having this sort of drive-through Chipotle or something, I don't know why I immediately thought of like one of those tubes at the bank for sending checks. And I think that Chipotle needs to do that and call it the burrito cannon. If they don't do that, I'm not going. Secondly, Chipotle, you know,
It's a good
they
idea.
so they really leaned into this hard even before the pandemic hit, before
Mm-hmm.
COVID. They were investing tons and tons of money
Yep.
into their technology, into their mobile app. They've built all that up internally, so they have
Yep.
their own custom built everything from the ground up. They're managing all of the infrastructure so that they can control everything, which is something it's really difficult to do, and a lot of non-technology companies don't do that and couldn't do that. They've taken on something and become, in some ways, half of their businesses as a technology company by managing all of this internally, and putting all of that time, money, blood, sweat, and tears into developing out this technology that allowed them to leverage the crap out of the new consumer trends that happened over the last year. I don't think no one could have predicted that, but as you mentioned here, it's not really waning right now because it's still quicker, it's still easier, and people love that. So on the local level, or if we're talking about smaller businesses, you don't have to build and manage your own infrastructure and technology infrastructure like they did here. You don't have to dump millions into everything, but you do have to have something, and you need to learn something from this masterclass that Chipotle has just put on for us. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have online ordering. You have to make it quick and easy. If you can get that into a mobile app, awesome. If you can get it on your website, at the very least, that should be there. But you need to make this. You said that you should make this quick and easy for the customer. I think you also need to make sure that this is quick and easy for yourself. This should be
Mm-hmm.
something that's easy to manage, because that allows you to provide an amazing customer experience to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If the UI and the experience is beautiful on the customer's end, but once it gets to you, it doesn't make any sense and you can't fulfill on it, that's not helpful for anyone, and you're going to end up pissing a lot of people off. You've got to have this be end to end, smooth and integrated. If you can get that online ordering experience directly integrated into your point of sale system, if you can get some sort of in-house system to help you manage all of these orders and customers, if say you have a good website and or a good mobile app, if you have a good way to manage those things, built out content management system for either or both of those things, or some sort of interface that makes it easy for you and or your staff to actually use this system, then that's going to be key here as well. Too many people, I think, focus on the customer's end and they don't think about themselves. But it's just as important for you to be able to actually manage and maintain this thing into the future and operate smoothly as it is to put something pretty in front of the customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree, Miles. Those are awesome points. And when I read the part about the drive-through and then started thinking about customer experience, the example that came to my mind was Chick-fil-A. I don't know if you've been through their drive-through, but I mean that thing is a well-oiled machine, and it enhances the customer experience. But it's also so organized that I imagine for them on the back end, it's so much easier to get the right food to the right people, because of how they have that systematized. But yeah, really, really interesting stuff there happening from Chipotle in the digital sales space. Okay, I know we're running out of time. We're actually a little over time. So what I'm going to do here is I was kind of going to do this anyways, but I'm going to take about 3 or 4 of these articles and just give you the headline, because they all kind of tie into a centralized theme here. Okay, the first
Let's do
one
this.
is all right. The first one is Grey Goose, the vodka company, serves up conversations with sports icons in a new streaming series. Grey Goose has partnered with Uninterrupted, the athlete empowerment brand of the Spring Hill Company, for a new content series offering retrospectives on sports icons' careers, according to the press release. The next one here, Toyota deepens commitment to esports with Twitch stream doubling as a virtual race. Toyota has launched a new gaming challenge with esports organization Gen G, according to the press release, titled Toyota Sedan, Drive Your Game. The competition runs for 10 days and is being streamed on Twitch. NFTs, new headline, NFTs remain technology. NFTs remain technology in search of clear brand.
Uh-oh. I think I lost him here. me see if I can't get him back. Well, that was a very interesting list of headlines there. I'm thinking that he's going to lean into the content marketing side of things, as all these big companies are moving outside of their just direct sales and making some very creative moves here. Let's see if we can't continue that list of headlines with our returning guest, Mike.
All right, I'm back. All right,
Yeah.
Here we go. New headline.
NFTs.
Yes, I'm off that one now. New headline. Arby's serves up AI app to identify French fry variety. This is a good one, Miles.
What?
Arby's, stay with me here. Arby's this week launched a mobile web app that identifies types of French fries in honor of National French Fry Day, which was apparently July 13th. The camera-powered feature titled Field Guide to Fries lets users snap a photo of their snack to determine its variety and fake scientific classification. Is it a curly fry, a curlius frisius, a crinkle, a crinkless potiacus, or a common fry? Users are then offered 50% off a sandwich for registering for Arby's emails. And the last one, Taco Bell releases anime-style ad Magna tie-in to hype nacho fries return. Taco Bell creates an anime-style ad and a digital comic tie-in inspired the Japanese manga format. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. To promote the return of nacho fries. So it goes on and on. Basically, they've partnered with some, I don't know, Japanese superhero in Hollywood and all this stuff. So what am I getting at here, Miles? Is that people are creating content, right? This is the thing that all these brands are doing. And everybody now is jumping in with both feet into this content marketing strategy game. And I think part of it ties back into what we were talking about earlier on in the show with this new scientific data that is telling people, or telling us as marketers, we need to reach people way more than we thought, maybe 3 times more than we thought. And we can't just say the same things over and over again. So doing things like this, it may seem a little gimmicky, but it's actually strategic. And so we can keep those contact points with our end user, keep reminding them about our brand, but in a way that is not salesy, in a way that is meeting the user where they want to be, in a way that is empowering the user with something that they want besides giving us money. Right? They want to be entertained, educated, or informed. Usually that's what people perceive as value. And so that's what, I think the common thread between all of those headlines brings together, which ties into what we've been discussing here today, and why it's so important to create a content strategy to vary your messaging while also keeping a cohesiveness about it and being long-term and consistent. Miles, that's it from the news desk. I'll send it back to you to wrap up the show.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a brilliant way to wrap it up. Just hitting that same point again, to be creative, to get that content out there, use that frequency without just hitting them over the head with sales content. Watching how some of these big brands, big brands accomplish that, I think is a big tip for small businesses. They're dumping in millions and millions of dollars into this stuff, but there's no reason that we can't take some of those lessons and apply them on a smaller scale here locally, and do so in a more efficient way, or some way that we don't have to just light millions of dollars on fire in order to make it happen. We can leverage some of the same strategies to produce really interesting content, to drive engagement from our audience, to get our brand out there, to skip the search and get people liking, knowing, and trusting us prior to us ever asking for any money at all, so that the sales process is a piece of cake. But I think that's going to be it for us this week. Mike, thank you for your time here. We got to get back to work. If you have any questions, or we said anything interesting here, you want us to dive deeper into anything, please shoot us an email at askwildman@wildmanweb.com, or visit our website at wildmanweb.com. Got tons of awesome resources there, and we'll be uploading this episode here to the live stream archives as well. Otherwise, check in next week, next Wednesday at 11. We'll be doing this live stream all over again and answering your questions. So we will see you then next Wednesday at 11. Thanks, everyone.